Yeah, you're
Hi,
good.
I am your host, Brent Feldman, and we are back with another episode of Mix and Matchbox. Today, I am joined by Kyle Mao. He is the CEO and founder at Hire UA. Hi, Kyle. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Glad we got the recording started. It didn't just waste 30 minutes of our time. So thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
Totally. I hate to say this, but that would not have been the first time. But I did it over one time, and we went through the whole thing, and it was really, it worked out well. But yes, thank you. I'm glad we
Yeah.
got it started too. Well, I'm looking forward to jumping into the questions here and, just jumping right in. I guess the first one is really just about, how you got to where you are. But, before you started your own companies, you were a storage engineer for two different organizations. And that's an interesting title for sure. How do you get into that line of work? And how do you think that set the tone for, what you're doing now?
So that was all about who I knew and the right time in my life. So when I was 14, going way back, I had an internship at a computer shop. And the guy who was one of the salespeople there became a very good friend, 10 years my senior. I went to college. He got hired at a Fortune 500 computer company called Hitachi. And he said, you're talented. Go get whatever degree you want, and there'll be a job for you pretty much when you finish, because I think you're the perfect fit. And it actually just worked out exactly like that. So finished school in December. I was starting at Hitachi like February 2nd or something of the sort. And that was my in. So I managed to go get a economics degree and then got right into computers. And frankly, that 8-week boot camp was way more of a computer education or technological education than I was ever going to get in college. So yeah, it worked out really well.
That's great. Well, I guess it's interesting because now Hire UA, as I mentioned, you're the CEO of hiring resources from the Ukraine is something that I'm actually personally familiar with. We've had a couple team members in the past that were actually from the Ukraine, and it's and they were great. They were great teammates and stuff, and they were on a contract basis, but they really did get integrated with our team. But as we've worked with a couple different groups to help also on dev projects too, like actually just maybe sending those projects to groups in the Ukraine as well. But why do you think, maybe Eastern Europe as a whole is positioned well to help with this type of talent?
I think a lot of it starts with the mindset. So, for a little bit of context, I've been living out in this region of the world for 8 years. And I think the big thing is that, pre 1991, this was under Soviet rule, it was communist times. And now this new generation has grown up in an area where the gates were unlocked. There was freedom. They could look at the West. And I'm not saying the West is some model example, especially in 2024. In fact, I think it's probably a poor example in many ways, but they grew up looking at this, looking at English as an opportunity, and just to be able to get jobs like this is just a very good opportunity for them. It's unlike anything they can typically get in their home country, especially in the case of Ukraine, given everything that is going on there at the moment. So I think it's time zones, it's a hungerness, and I think it's more than anything, though, I go back to they're the first generation out of communism. So their eyes are wide open to the world and possibilities that no one in their countries had before. And I think that's really the root of it, if you had to ask my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I guess it seems like you're not only kind of involved with like, leveraging Ukrainian talent. You're not the only one doing this,
Mhm.
and I know that even some companies here in St. Louis, and actually the one that we worked with out of Chicago, are definitely, that they do that as well. Do you have any sort of feeling on what propelled the growth of leveraging that? I know you mentioned that obviously that this open opportunities for people in the Ukraine, but as a war is going on, you wouldn't think that there would be an increase in demand from people in that region, but it seems to have propelled growth. But let know how you kind of feel about that.
I think as far as technical work, a lot of people have been going to Eastern Europe for quite a few years now, more so than they have other outsourcing hubs like Southeast Asia and Latin America. I think Eastern Europe has grown as a hub for the lower level positions like virtual assistants, project managers, and now people are realizing I could fill pretty much any position, whereas before it was really just a lot of technical talent. And I think at this point, we were talking a little bit about before we started recording that you can go on some of the like Filipino job boards. And the problem is that there's really good people there, but finding them, there's so many. It's such a just see to slog through to find one good one. You go post a job and you'll get like 500 applicants. And we're like, where do you even start with that? So I think it's a little more curated, a little bit more select because of a few reasons. And that's why Eastern Europe has really grown and skyrocketed over the last couple of years.
Cool. And I think that's helpful context and in regards to, the search for an employee and what you're providing, because it's not necessarily just the access to these people, but it's also the vetting for the right opportunity. You're right. As you kind of put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's a huge thing, to invest in for any company, of putting in that time to interview, make sure that you've got the right fit. And then sometimes, hiring them on and then being like, oh my gosh, was this the right, person that we needed on our team at the time? So anyway, having that sort of value of, somebody who can work with the local talent and then understand, what they're looking for in a job and an opportunity, what they can offer, and then really saving the business that time too. That's pretty cool.
And time's so important too. A lot of business owners have no idea like what their time is worth. It's like, if your time's worth $100 an hour, should you be spending this much time like going through resumes when you can pay someone like $7 an hour to do it? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people haven't actually sat down and looked at their tax return and calculated how much their time is actually worth it in an hour, and they just are flying blind. And that's something I really think they need to do.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Yeah. That's how much are you making per hour? And and literally, should you be thinking about using different resources for some of those simpler tasks that maybe you shouldn't be doing? So this might be tough to address, but it's a very important topic. And the war has been awful, especially for the Ukraine. And it's I have many feelings about it, and I'm sure you do as well. And I'd love to hear this as that people still need to make money and provide for their families as a war is going on around them. How do most Ukrainians, or at least the ones that you're dealing with, balance dealing with their lives and working for in a lot of cases foreign companies?
So the important thing to realize right off the bat is that the day the war started, the exchange rate went from about 1 to 25 to like 1 to 40. So right off the bat, the cost of living basically went up 33%. And that doesn't include just the prices being raised locally as well, because everything is tied to the dollar there. That they don't deal in their local currency. Everything is like they talk about in dollars. So that's the first thing to notice. And then of course, businesses shutting down, opportunities gone. Men can't leave the country. If you're a man between the age of 18 to 60, you cannot leave the country. I have friends and family that are stuck there right now. And if they don't have an opportunity, like what are they to do? And that's a question I would ask. And I think the answer is absolutely horrible. But basically, the opportunities remote are going to pay probably 3 to 4 times what they're going to get locally. They'll have the flexibility. So if, for example, like say you're a woman and you have a child and the situation gets worse and you're working online, at least then you can take your kid and you can get out of the country. You can go work somewhere else. So I think everyone who's there deserves all the credit in the world for just being able to stick through it the way they have. And I've been repeatedly amazed at the perseverance and the resilience that the people that we've placed have shown, from, finding where Starlink is, to working in co-working centers, to, getting generators set up so they can keep staying online. And I think it's really a testament to the type of person that ultimately will get in your business, what they're going through now. And the way I look at it is like, well, compared to what's going on there, working a job is nothing. It's like the least stressful thing in the world. So of course it's they're going to put their all into it.
That's great. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, like, good to show the testament of the character of, the people that are, there, but definitely, still awful what they have to go through.
It's horrible.
Yeah. I guess neighboring or nearby Estonia is also a country in Eastern Europe known for its very early internet adoption, and I know that early high speed internet adoption, and really for a wealth of tech talent there too. Is there a reason that maybe countries and their tech talent there may not be growing as fast as the Ukraine?
It's a smaller place, so that'd be the first thing right there. I don't know what the population is, but I'm going to guess it's probably only 7 to 10 million at the most. So right off the bat, that's probably part of it. They were really pioneering like the digital nomad visas too. So I think a lot of people were looking at that too as like an option to go open a company in Estonia and hire local talent there. But I would say probably the biggest thing that it comes down to is also just being EU based. They have a certain tie to local jobs that they can, you know, an Estonian, for example, can easily go and work in Germany, no problem. Whereas a Ukrainian that would have to do that is going to have to jump through quite a few more hurdles. Whereas the person in Estonia can pretty much just pack up their stuff and go the next day. So I would suspect that as far as outsourcing to America, that's probably why you've seen more offshore contractors in Ukraine and Belarus and Russia as compared to a place like Estonia, because there isn't that, you know, easy Western European tie to it.
Yeah. Oh, and what you mentioned earlier about people really not being able to leave, you know, men from the ages of, yeah, and I'm sorry, I forget the ranger, but like, you
18
know,
to
that they're not
60, yeah.
Thank you. That they aren't able to leave, so therefore they have kind of like this captive, you know, the theory, not captive, I don't want to say that, but audience that isn't able to leave, that are definitely working from there. As you mentioned,
Mhm.
yeah, Estonia, if they can leave and go to, you know, other neighboring countries and find a higher wage, they can more
They could just
easily make
go,
that
yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, and thank you. I appreciate all this education, because I think at the end
You're
of the
very
day,
welcome.
there's a lot of things that, you know, you know, even hiring the talent, you're not privy to during those situations. And I feel like it's important for everybody to kind of understand this, the dynamics of the country, and, you know, what, you know, how things are working. So how, you know, scalable would you say is it to grow an organization using only foreign labor? And maybe actually even to your potentially your own organization, you know, is this something where you feel like people could, you know, scale an organization using nothing but Ukrainian talent? You know, like it's just one person stateside selling things using Ukrainian labor? Or is this something where you feel like it is something where you need a mix of that, you know, sort of onshore and offshore talent in order to make things work? And then I'm curious, sorry to make it a multi-part, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
how does that maybe even apply to your scaling too?
So our company is basically 10x in the last 2 years, and they're all pretty much from Ukraine except me, obviously. And then we have one sales guy who's American, and we don't place sales closers anyway. I don't think that's really a great fit for people overseas. So, other than that, though, our entire recruiting, marketing, operations, my assistants, they're all either Ukrainian. We have a couple other Eastern Europeans as well, Bulgaria and Serbia, but I think I'm living proof that you can do it. Obviously, it depends on the business and what exactly it is, but I think if you have the ability to be remote and you're providing a service that is, you know, done online, you can absolutely scale a business purely with foreign talent. You know, of course, there's going to be bottlenecks, but it's certainly doable.
Yeah, that's cool. I know one of the biggest challenges, I guess, maybe is the time difference, but I know that that can also work to a business's benefit in certain cases too. You know, you know, depending on when that, you know, timing is, if that's something
Mhm.
that, you know, you have conversations during the day, you know, that, you know, kind of folds into night and then back around to your morning, you know, sometimes that can actually, you can make that time difference work for you too.
Yeah, and I think that's what's always been so tough about Asia is that they're truly working like in the middle of the night, which you know that's just hard to do in the long term. I've done a few graveyards, and it's just not sustainable in the long term. Whereas Europe, it's only 8 hours ahead in a lot of cases, or even less sometimes. So it's really not that much of a difference. And as far as I mean, when I was living in California a couple of years ago, or sorry, last year actually, it was nice because they were already working and doing everything by the time I woke up. So they would wake up, do all the stuff. East Coast would wake up, and then I was still getting up at like 6 in the morning. But by the time I was getting up, like they had already handled everything on the East Coast with those clients. It was nice. Basically, had someone around the clock. I could be doing the late shift.
That's cool. That's really neat. So I guess your profile on LinkedIn states that you can get someone hired in a week, which sounds, I'm just going to say it, it sounds impossible. But, you know, like that's great. That's amazing to be able to, you know, place talent that quickly, because as we were talking just a little bit earlier, it can be an arduous process for a business, and certainly involve a lot of, you know, sort of time and you know, oh my gosh, just looking at all the resumes and the things that come in. So anyway, what do you know, think is your key to that sort of placement strategy, and you know, that makes it that quick?
I think the big one is that we treat it like sales, which means that we have a constant pipeline of our most common roles. So, for example, if you come to us and it's a common position, more than likely we've already got 5 candidates who are a very solid fit that we could probably schedule tomorrow. And we've had that happen a few times. Like someone, started the engagement on a Monday and they're interviewing Wednesday morning and hiring by Wednesday afternoon. So those situations have happened before. Technical roles can sometimes be a little bit harder, a little bit more difficult, depending on how niche it is. But truly, for the most part, we can be scheduling candidates on someone's calendar within a week. And that's a testament to, just keeping active, a testament to my team just doing a fantastic job at the job that they do. I can't say enough good things about them. And then also just having eager candidates who are looking for opportunities like this. So it's kind of a perfect storm of everything, I would say.
Wonderful. Cool. And I guess maybe in consideration of, the people that, you're helping get jobs and stuff, like do you have a deeper mission associated with your organization past, just being able to, supply employees for people's companies,
Well, I mean, honestly, I really do want to help people in Ukraine, through these times. So this was, Ukraine was home for 5 years. My wife is from there. I've got family there now. Obviously, I own property there. So everything that I had done in my life since 2016, when I quit my corporate job, really was focused around that country and that region of the world. So I know what the people are like, and I just think they deserve a lot better than what they've gotten for the last 2 years. Like it's really that simple. So, every person we can help, they get to help their family. It's just, we get to help with business owners. And on the other end of it, I think like small business owners, medium business owners like me and you, like we get the short end of the stick in America too. Like, I just finished my taxes today. I'm ready to go have a beer after this, to be honest. Like it's never easy for the entrepreneurs either. And when you've got people demanding $25 an hour to go flip a hamburger bun, like what are you supposed to do if like, you can say like, I want to hire locally, but you can't even find anyone a lot of the times. And the expectations are so enormous that the way I look at it is the candidates win, the clients win, like everybody wins. And that's what makes me happy.
Cool. That's very good. Yeah. And it is, it's, people that, and I'm sure, from not only the people who are your team, but understanding the situation. And as you mentioned, even family, it's like,
Mhm.
there are people that make it easy to want to help and do a good job for. Yeah.
Mhm. And
That's
there's
great.
one other thing I want to note there too. Like a lot of people say like, oh, I don't want to do this because I'm taking jobs away from America, or et cetera, et cetera. And I say like, no, my friend, like you're doing what's right for your business. It's the senator who's shipping, 100,000 jobs overseas. Like that's what's not right. You hiring a virtual assistant instead of paying someone, $40 an hour in the States, like that's not who we're talking about with shipping jobs overseas. Like you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I you couldn't have said that better. I agree.
Yeah.
That's not where the
Well,
problem
don't
is.
get don't get me started on the politics, man.
Yeah. I know you have a totally different perspective now, but absolutely, I completely agree with that. But you found another passion along the way, and that's producing olive oil. And does it have kind of as it is definitely a different business in and of itself, does it have the same headaches, that, running this business does? And, and obviously even with a great team and everything going swimmingly, and I can be thankful for the same too. But, I've talked to lots of people who own multiple businesses and they're like, I don't know, it's still another business. You still got to run it at the end of the day and it still has its challenges. How is it for you?
I sold a good portion of that back, so I don't have the daily headaches, but starting it, oh, the headaches were even worse. I mean, a physical product, you'd be surprised. I've got a bottle of it over here behind me, and it looks so simple. It's a bottle, but you'd be surprised how many different components are on that bottle. And so they've all got to get to the same place where it can be bottled properly, and then everything has to come together. So even a simple product like this is so complex as far as just the logistics of it that I can't even imagine like doing anything more complex, like electronics or anything that required actual parts. No, 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 no. I want nothing to do with that. So, like you said, it's a business. It has its headaches, but it was a fun project. Obviously, I have no regrets about doing it and owning part of an olive oil company. So that's pretty cool to say.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah. How did you start that? Did you just like love olive oil and you're like, I've got to do this?
So my original blog after I quit the corporate job was a dating blog. That was my original business, and I built up a pretty big following for quite a few years, like over 1 million readers a year. And I had a reader who became a personal friend. We lived in the same city at the time in Prague, and he said like, "Hey, I've got this family farm in Croatia. Are you interested in marketing and being a 50-50 partner on it?" So that was literally how it started, was someone who read my dating blog.
Oh, that's awesome. That's hilarious. Well, and now you yeah, still have part of a company. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I last question I have for you, and this is interesting because like I actually looked at SDSU as a school.
Mhm.
So and I saw that you went there. And so how did you kind of make it from there to to Europe? Like what was the thing that kind of made you make the jump?
So I was 24 years old, and I had just been promoted to a senior engineer at my second company. And I was making close to $100,000 a year, and I was living in Los Angeles. And my check was only $4,400 a month, and my rent was $2,000 a month, and then my car payment was 400, and then gas plus insurance. All of a sudden, I was close to 3 grand a month before food or any fun. And I said, like, this is just wrong. Like, this is not working for me. And could I have been more clever with my taxes? Probably. Could I have, figured something out and made a little more money? Of course. But I said, the odds are so stacked against me and, people my age. Like, we can't buy homes easily. We don't really have these options. Like everyone says this is so much money, but it's clearly not going anywhere. And I said, I am tired of the corporate job. After 3 years, I want to do something different. And I realized like, there's no way I'm ever going to build a business while my expenses are like this. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I saved money. I moved to Europe and I said, hey, I've got enough savings to last me a year and a half. And if I can't make it happen in that time, then guess what? I didn't deserve to make it in the first place. So that's what I did. I jumped on a one-way flight and hoped I wouldn't run out of money. And it worked out, thankfully.
Wow, that's awesome. That's cool, and just a testament to just taking risks and putting yourself out there. That's cool.
Yep. And like for perspective, I mean, this was in 2016, but you could live well off of $1,200 out here at the time, maybe
Wow.
1,500 as a single guy, not providing for a family or anything like that. But that was at the time very doable for a single guy. And this would still be like eating out, going out, a good life at that price, which was just crazy at the time.
That is crazy, and that's amazing too. Definitely different than LA prices, though.
Yeah, by a lot. I
Yeah,
like to ask this question too. Like, if you go down to your local, pub, how much is a beer?
yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm pretty fortunate. Local, I've got a beer right, or a bar right around the corner from my house that I love. It's a great, sort of community spot too. But it's like $5.50. So it's not bad.
Okay. Well, mine's a buck, so I'm still 80% cheaper than you though.
Oh
So it's just
man.
such a different world. And I think that really illustrates how good of when you're paying someone Western wages, you're still getting a great deal as a business owner, but that person's still getting a great deal. And that illustrates it because, like I said, a beer is a buck.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is a pretty darn good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, after you got done doing your taxes and you need that beer, I'll let you go enjoy
Yeah.
one. But definitely thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Brent. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Cool. Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of Mix and Matchbox. I'm your host, Brent Feldman. We'll be back soon with more content. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.